Are you drowning in data? Absolutely buried under requests? Well, if you're in competitive intelligence, you know this feeling of chaos all too well. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful solution, the Lean CI framework. It's designed to help you maximize your value and, maybe more importantly, minimize waste. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll tackle the big CI overload problem. Then, we'll get into the solution, a smarter way called Lean CI. After that, we'll walk through a practical 100-day launch plan, how to manage your daily workflow with something called Kanban, and of course, how to actually measure your success. And it all leads to this ultimate goal, becoming a truly intelligence-driven organization. All right, first things first, let's really define the core challenge that pretty much every single competitive intelligence professional is dealing with right now. Does this hit a little too close to home? You've got these endless streams of data coming in, a mountain of requests piling up. Look, you're not alone. This is basically the default state for most CI teams, and it just leads to that constant feeling of being completely overwhelmed. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? That constant urgency, that pressure, it creates this feeling that you're always a step behind. Honestly, it's a perfect recipe for burnout and for doing reactive work instead of real strategic work. And this leads to a huge problem. Because when everything is a priority, well, then nothing is. Without some kind of system to separate the signal from all that noise, teams are just left fighting fires all day, mistaking all that frantic movement for actual achievement. But the good news is there is a much smarter way to do this. So let's introduce the philosophy of Lean CI, which is designed specifically to bring some order to all of this chaos. At its core, Lean CI is all about ruthless efficiency. It's a mindset that's actually borrowed from the world of manufacturing, and it's focused on one thing: delivering the absolute maximum value to your stakeholders by systematically cutting out any work that doesn't help you get there. You've probably heard of this as the 80-20 rule, right? Well, this is that Pareto principle in action. Instead of trying to do everything, Lean CI forces you to zero in on that vital 20% of your effort that's going to generate 80% of the strategic impact for your business. And this framework right here, this is what can totally transform your team's role. You stop being just an information router, and you become a real strategic partner. You move beyond just delivering the what, the raw data, to analyzing the so what, and most importantly, providing the critical now what, those actionable recommendations everyone needs. Okay, theory is great, but let's get practical. How do you actually put this into practice? The goal here is to build a functional program and do it fast. So let's look at the 100-day plan for what's called a minimum viable program. This 100-day rule is all about delivering real value in about 3 months. You start by learning what your stakeholders actually need. Then you build simple prototypes, not some perfect final version. You test those with key users. You launch the program officially. And from that point on, it is all about continuous iteration and improvement. And this cycle is so important. Look, it's not about launching a perfect, polished program right out of the gate. No way. It's about getting something valuable into the hands of your stakeholders quickly. That speed is what builds the trust and the credibility you're going to need to get more investment and buy-in down the line. So how do you manage all that day-to-day work and keep the value flowing? Let's take a look at the engine that drives Lean CI, the Kanban board. Think of a Kanban board as your team's command center. It's your entire workflow, all laid out on a single screen. And its real power lies in making all that invisible work visible. By managing your capacity and limiting your work in progress, you create this steady, predictable flow of intelligence instead of a chaotic scramble. Here's what a CI Kanban board actually looks like in practice. See, each one of those cards is a task, and it moves from the funnel of new ideas on the far left through in progress, all the way to done on the right. When you track the journey visually like this, it becomes more than just an organizing tool. It's an incredibly powerful communication tool for the whole organization. So let's just quickly break down this flow. The funnel, that's where everything lands. The backlog is where you prioritize everything based on real strategic value. In progress is what you're actively working on right now, and you have to be really strict about limiting this to avoid overload. Ready is for review, and a task isn't truly done until you've gotten feedback and confirmed its value. Okay, I love this analogy for prioritizing requests. Think about your regular intelligence, the voice of competition, or VOC. Those are like vitamins that just keep the organization healthy over time. But key intelligence topics, or KITs, those are aspirin. They're for the urgent headaches, those specific painful problems that need immediate attention. This simple filter helps you instantly see what needs to jump to the top of the backlog. A lean system is a learning system. It has to be. So, how do you make sure you're actually delivering value? And how do you make sure you're constantly getting better? This right here, this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? The absolute worst thing you can do is spend weeks on a report that nobody reads or cares about. You have to have a simple, direct way to measure your impact. Well, the answer might come from something called the Net Promoter Score, or NPS. You've definitely seen this as a customer, but believe me, it's just as powerful internally. It gives you a simple, standard way to measure if your stakeholders are truly satisfied with your work. The heart of NPS is just this one single question. After you deliver something, a report, a presentation, whatever, you just ask your stakeholders to rate how likely they are to recommend it. It's that simple. And anyone who scores you a 9 or a 10, those are your promoters. And the calculation is super easy. You just take the percentage of your promoters and subtract the percentage of your detractors. That gives you one clear score that you can track and, more importantly, improve over time. All right, let's pull all of this together and talk about the end game. What is the ultimate goal here? What's the fundamental shift we're aiming for in your team's role and its impact on the whole company? You see, the old model of competitive intelligence, it was often just about keeping the team busy, churning out reports, answering every single request. It was all about activity.
But the lean model is completely different. The goal is to keep your team challenged. You shift them from just being task fillers to being strategic problem solvers who are engaged with the most important questions the business is facing. And that's not just better for the business, it's how you attract and keep top talent.
So, I'll leave you with this question. Applying this lean mindset starts with just one step. What's the one wasteful task your team could cut tomorrow to make room for the work that truly, truly matters?